The Weeping Angels were always going to be a tricky one because all of these appearances, one of the most iconic Doctor Who monsters to date, and we still know next to nothing about them. Some Blink purists say that they should have never reappeared and that every appearance since has kind of nullified them, taking away the mystique. But we still don't know their history, if they have any known society, or motivations beyond survival. And they do have motivations beyond survival, but we'll never know, as Class Series 2 got cancelled harder than Kevin Spacey. How the hell these kids were meant to take on a church? Perhaps a cult of Weeping Angels? I'm unsure. Maybe Capaldi would have come and bowed them out again. Thankfully, we'll never know. Of all of Moffat's creations, these do not seem like the ones with the most potential as a recurring villain. They were more of a breakaway success of Series 3. Personally, I would have taken the Vashta-Nerada, the Silence, even the Boneless. But because of Blink, we were saddled with these fairly limited and somewhat repetitive villains. A genius gothic idea at their core, but can it really go further than a single ghost story? The Angels are a brilliant gimmick monster. So today we're going to see just how far you can push the Angels into new territory, by detailing every appearance of them in the lore. They don't have a history per se, as in we don't even know how they appear in different time periods. Do they time travel? Do they have spaceships? Are there just statues in every time period? No clear answers. It may alarm you to know that the Angels do have a supposed origin story. How's that for mystique? Well, before you cry heresy, just know it was written by one of Doctor Who's greatest writers. In Grey Matter by Dave Rudden, the 12 cities on the planet Gehenna are in quarantine lockdown. Cheery, as a storm of marble dust rages, and within that storm an angel plague reigns supreme. As the image of an angel itself becomes an angel, and the remaining survivors do find themselves becoming Weeping Angels. Finally, the 12th Doctor of all people arrives and explains to the two surviving people what happened here and where they went wrong. So don't count on him to solve COVID-19. Jesus. This plague could have been their source of origin, but it also bears reminding they are a part of Time Lord myth. Supposedly they also evolved at the dawn of time, and the 4th Doctor even doubted their existence. Retroactively, if you like a bit of a headcanon, some would argue that the cherubs in 10 Little Aliens are Weeping Angels, as they seem to match the brief. And as much as I like this, the dating doesn't quite make sense and they have their own name, making the 5th Doctor the first to properly encounter them. An encounter he's not very surprised about, indicating that maybe they have appeared in his timeline before. In this story, we find the Weeping Angels in the 16th century with Michelangelo, and that there were 3 Weeping Angels as the asteroids came together that made the Earth. Wasn't the Rachnos also in there? Must be pretty crowded. That's all we really know about them. In Doom Coalition, a very popular series, the 8th Doctor finds that the Time Lords have allied themselves with the Angels, as the Time Lords are building a shield with a massive amount of energy in 1970s New York. Sounds random, and it is, and because that story is in such a rush and has 3 other villains in it, we never explore this relationship in more detail. Then we come to the 10th Doctor, and it's the next 3 Doctors really who have all of the Weeping Angel stories. First off, it's Blink, a Doctor Light adventure that also doubles as a multi-Doctor story, as A Little Help from My Friends by Titan Comics features Ten and Martha on their end in 1969 meeting up with the fam. This is honestly one of the best 13th Doctor adventures so far, even if just because Martha looks like this. Because the story is set in the events of Blink, their motivation is the same: get their hands on the TARDIS. And in many ways, it is a bit of a retread. This is going to start becoming quite an issue. The Angels mostly do a lot of lurking, but they have to share the story with Autons, of all enemies. I get the vibe that this was meant to be an Esteem Consciousness story, and he's down there just chilling in a vat until a Weeping Angel zaps him back to the past, completely stealing his thunder. How's that fair? You lot, every time I think I've seen the last of you, and you have no idea, do you? Who I even am, just how much you've taken from me. But you know what? Still beat you every single time, and if you think this time's gonna go any differently, you really do have rocks for brains. The 10th Doctor also finds one in The Forgotten, but every single reference ever is in The Forgotten, so And then there's the Weeping Angels of Mons, a really interesting tale that uses the angels as the crux of a moral conundrum. On the front lines of World War I, soldiers are being offered a chance to flee to a different time period. To everyone saying the Weeping Angels are spent creatively, check this one out. It's really gruesome, including one man who stitches his eyes open. Even for a World War I period piece, this one's rough. Over to Eleven and Amy, who get really unlucky as they seem to bump into the angels every other adventure. The Time of Angels introduces new gimmicks onto the titular creatures, although I do start to think if you give them too many new abilities every time they return, they will eventually become omnipotent. Personally, I find this adventure way scarier than Blink. As for the first time, we see that they are deeply intelligent and incredibly malicious. Coming out at the same time was also the Monsters Files for the Weeping Angels, this one hosted by River Song, who gives us a couple interesting nuggets of information.
If you see them on television, that's the worst, the most frightening. Children know instinctively about the Weeping Angels. They even invent playground games to train themselves to escape them. Even with your eyes wide open, in the dark, you can't see them coming.
Then there's Doctor Who and the Last Stand. Don't ask me how I came across this. It's a series of stamps that make out a story of the Ood, the Angels, the Daleks and the Cybermen confronting the Doctor before they all start fighting each other and the Doctor just gets in the TARDIS and flies away. Maybe I shouldn't expect storytelling from stamps? Or maybe this is the funniest Weeping Angel story of all time. What are the Ood doing there? Regardless, you gotta count it. Whilst we're talking unusual mediums for Doctor Who, the Weeping Angels appear a lot in video games. Angels in the Shadows was an iPod game with a bizarre amount of story. There's various web browser games, all of them now defunct dead media. One of them was especially evil and was just a stare-off, where the webcam could tell if you blinked, and the angels would come closer. And most recently, The Edge of Time. Because if you're not gonna do Doctor Who horror in VR, then what else are you gonna do? Then there's Good as Gold, an episode completely written by small children as part of a Blue Peter competition, because that's always worked so great in the past. This one is mostly harmless. An Olympic torch carrier runs into the TARDIS for some reason and is being chased by a weeping angel. The Doctor says, "Don't blink, don't even blink," etc, etc. Something about the angel wanting to destroy the pride of the Olympics and ruin London 2012. Strange motivations. We can't tell possibly what the nefarious means are. What's their endgame? Anyway, the Doctor points the sonic screwdriver at it and it dies. Kino. This outing is especially strange as it contradicts not only the show, but real life, wherein the real 2012 actor Matt Smith carried the flame. So actually, this story written by children is debunked. Fake fans. Anyway, onto my serious Doctor Who content, Dr. 11th, a Mr. Men book. Next. Then Rory comes along for the ride and they just can't get rid of them. In this novel, they pilot a nice bloke called Mark to create a time eddy. Rory gets tapped by an angel. Gaze to that, buddy. Their appearance in the God Complex should count, as even though they're a part of Gibbus's room, they are still an image of an angel, which surely is itself an angel? Best not to think about it. Then in a Stinky Baby book, they team up with a bunch of old people to defeat another one. They have the same story over and over, guys. And in 4 Doctors, the day is saved by a pocket weeping angel. The 11th Doctor has a number of comics in which he's trapped a weeping angel, meaning he can just bring one out as a plot device to send himself back in time to get out of danger. I like this. In this very same story, we find out there is a weeping angel museum in the year Squintillion, which sounds like a terrible idea. Eventually, the angels do get Amy and Rory, which I can only assume is their main motivation as they do not stop showing up. This theory would make sense, they haven't had a full story ever since. What Amy and Rory did to piss them off so much, I don't know. But the Diary of River Song and that one Melody Malone book that they actually released are both different preludes to this adventure. I don't know if they contradict at all. And once Amy and Rory are gone, they become very much background fodder. Time of the Doctor, Hellbent. And it's a shame they're relegated to cameos because Capaldi's Doctor would have been fantastic against them. We saw them last time on the receiving end of Margaret Slitheen, also battling Jadoon and Heavenly Hosts and Nardo. I promise this is not just bad fanfic. Well, it kind of is. But then, isn't all of it. There's The Lost Angel by Cavan Scott and George Mann. That's definitely one to check out, but I just cannot for the life of me listen to a 5-hour audiobook. I don't have that kind of energy right now. Plus, we're just in New York again. What is their fixation? And they're also a major component of the now demolished Doctor Who experience. Very sad about this still. I haven't gotten over it. I was never scared of the Angels as a kid, but when I saw them in person as part of that walkthrough experience, whew, they scary. They go on to appear in a number of short stories, none of them with the Doctor in them. Jack battled a number of them in his service as a time agent, and then, again, Class. In this, they were affiliated with the mysterious governors of Coal Hill Academy. Nice to see them mixing things up a bit and getting into the admin side of the education board. And that's all we really see of them, as none of the Class spin-offs have really addressed the Weeping Angel in the room. And that's a shame, because Class was an excessively gory series, and I would have loved to see them given carte blanche on the violence. And then A Ghost Story for Christmas, narrated by John Barrowman, where a angel stalks a girl through a graveyard and then gets her. Shocker. I haven't been delving into the plots of many of these because so many of them are so alike. You've seen one angel story, you've seen them all. A common complaint is that Moffat kept piling on all these new gimmicks to the angels, increasing their abilities but never their motivations. And yeah, fair enough, but I think it's more so that every single angel story isn't a continuation of this monster. They're all sequels to Blink. What do I mean by that? Well, all of these stories that I've listed are obsessed with this episode. They quote it, they copy its ending, or reference it endlessly. Talk about ragging on past victories. If Whittaker came across a weeping angel next year, you know exactly what she would say. Because it's the only thing any character says. Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. Like, yeah, I got it. Can we stop repeating the same line from 2007? There's a reluctance to move on. Titan Comics and the novels have shown us they don't have to be just one-trick ponies. So, what's the point? Well, they're living statues. Transform the mundane. Give children paranoia of the everyday world. It doesn't get more Doctor Who than that. I think they're also the last great attempt to make an iconic recurring new series monster. I mean, who else is there? Ood? Jadoon? The Morax? New Who does have a monster problem. Now, especially that we're out of the Moffat years, I don't know if we're going to be seeing these guys on TV ever again. There's some stories where I wish they had just rocked up, and others where I wish they hadn't. At the heart of it, that's still a great horror idea. And for this, I give them a B. For Blink. And boy, you better stop pretending it's 2007. Blink is a fine episode. But please, let's move on.